So the story really came about. I had the idea for a heist film that, like, the first two-thirds of the movie is a heist film, and then there's kind of this twist, and they have to make some decisions. Do they keep the money? Do they go back? I kind of had this idea for the structure of the film, and but was having trouble kind of like getting it all to click. Um, and then came to the realization I'm from Hartford originally. Hartford is we call ourselves the health insurance capital of the world because we have some of the biggest health insurers in the country based here. And I suddenly had this click. I go, okay, it should be set in Hartford, and the company they should be robbing is a health insurance company. And then suddenly it all kind of fell into place for me. Um, and so that was really it came about from a mix of having this idea of a heist film. I love heist films, and having this idea of this fun heist film that then kind of takes a turn and gets a little bit darker. And then combining that with health insurance and what I think was a kind of, you know, at the time and still to this day is a real conversation around the way our health insurance system works, and, you know, companies that maximize profits as opposed to taking care of people and providing them with the care that they need.
You know, it really makes you think because healthcare should be a right, not a business. But that's the way it is in the US.
Yeah, no, and again, I think we in Hartford especially have a somewhat complicated relationship with health insurance industry because it is, you know, it provides jobs for thousands of city residents here, including, you know, in this case Ricky's mom, but there is kind of the dark side to it. And, um, you know, finding that balance, and obviously it's a fictional company, but, you know, finding the balance of a company that does provide jobs and support, but also, you know, at times is not doing what's best for the people that it's supposed to be providing healthcare for.
It has a very hasty, I mean, it's a haste movie. There are some times in which you're rooting for them, like when they're going into the office and stealing the stuff. It's really good. How did you build up all that tension?
Yeah, I mean, the tension was such a fun piece to build, and I think that really came down to our cinematographer Mike Curry and I. We sat down and went through all those sequences and really meticulously planned how we wanted to shoot them, how we were going to do it in such a way that kept that tension going, and tapped into, you know, what we're kind of, there's a cinematic language of heists and how to pull it off in an exciting way. Obviously, you know, this is a slightly more modern heist, and so they're using Apple Watches, and, you know, that they're not trying to get money bags, but they're instead of, you know, trying to break into an office and do all the payments digitally. Um, but I think the tapping into the core heist elements, and keeping that tension was such a key piece of it.
So Rich, in a way, is very lucky with the kind of friends that he has.
Yes, you know, it's definitely it was fun to kind of create this trio and, you know, balance them against each other. And I think we had a lot of talks as we were in the rehearsal phase of like how both the strengths of each of these characters, but also how they interact with one another, because they do kind of have to play off of each other. And you know, Victor, who is the Ivy League educated brains, but also at times like he kind of goes with the flow more. And Sunita is really the driving force that makes the decision. I think is kind of the moral compass for the group as well, because Ricky can definitely be impulsive at times, and so having Sunita be there to kind of keep them on track and make sure that they're. I don't think the plan works without her.
Do we see parts of yourself in the three of them?
I definitely there's different pieces that have been tapped into for different elements. I would say probably I am the most like Victor, I would have to say, at a personal level. And really, you know, I have some amazing friends who definitely provided some inspiration for Ricky because, you know, growing up, I had all sorts of getting a call, hey, we got this crazy plan, you know, never robbing a health insurance company, but you can kind of imagine taking that idea of, you know, always getting the call about the crazy plan that they need my help for. And you know,
How did you get to finance the film?
so the key piece with financing a film was we really reached out to the local Hartford and Connecticut community and said, "Hey, Hartford is really due for a movie. You know, there's not a lot of feature films that have shot here in recent years, and we want to make a film that really highlights and showcases the city." And people really responded to that. And so we had not only people that were writing checks to finance a film, but also people said, "Hey, I can't write a check, but I want to help in other ways." Whether that was donating their time on set or donating locations, You know, I was really blown away by the amount of community support we got in making this film happen. And it's cool. I mean, you know, we're about to release in 3 days, and having that community support has led into so much excitement around the film's release. You know, here in Hartford and you know throughout the country. But I'm getting emails from people, "Hey, I worked on the film," or "My granddaughter volunteered as an extra on the film," or whatever that was. It's cool to have so much community buy-in.
That's great. And the location, some of them were really excellent,
Yeah,
right?
and that was again, that was one of those things that when I wrote the first draft of the script and we were talking through budgets and stuff, and my producer said, "This is a lot of locations and some like pretty big locations. I don't know that we have a locations budget this big." And I said, "No, I think people are going to buy in and want to be supportive." And that's really what happened. Is, you know, the vast majority of our locations we didn't pay a cent for. They were excited to welcome us in and accommodated us, and so we were able to get some of these really stunning locations. As I was writing it, I was writing it to, you know, some of my favorite places in the city, having grown up here, and got to say, you know, I know that place is absolutely beautiful. It's so cinematic, and so got to shoot in some really cool locations. And because we're, you know, contained here with shot entirely here in Hartford, you know, it was possible to jump from one beautiful location to another beautiful location all in one day, which made, you know, filming feasible.
That's really great. And the three actors, they're super cool.
Yeah, that was a really intensive process. So we had a nationwide casting search for the three actors. We kind of looked at, you know, a really wide range, but we had over 5,000 self tapes that got reviewed, that
Wow.
were then narrowed down into callback auditions and then chemistry reads. And I really remember, we had the day because, you know, because both COVID and locations, chemistry reads had to happen over Zoom, which I think can be tough because sometimes it's hard to get a feel for chemistry. And we had a couple of different actors that were cycling through, and the three of them came on screen, and did actually the scene in the bar where they're talking through doing the heist together.
Yeah.
And the chemistry that they had, even through Zoom, I was like, this is our trio. They work so well together. And it's funny, you know, the three of them, it was their first time meeting each other. Laquan and Preet are both from LA. Federico is from New York, but they had never met each other before. But they are such good friends now. I know that they are texting back and forth basically every day. They fly out to go see each other. And so I think that's a good, speaks well to the casting on our part, that we cast these three best friends who 2 years later are still best friends. I think is cool.
That's really cool. So TJ, congrats and have a great opening of the film. And
Thank
thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much for your time. I'm going to stop recording. Where is it? Oh, oh, sorry. Stop recording.